moving along, staying warm out here in my lovely shirt.
Hey, a plot devices shirt. Action, it's the law.
Absolutely, it is. If you're in Hollywood and someone says action, you got to do it.
You're required by law. Absolutely by law. Hey, this is a very, very special week, is it not?
It's a very special week. This is our last show of the year, and I really couldn't be more excited for it. It's the holidays. It's lovely. It's snowing. It's a VFX and chill miracle.
It is a VFX and chill miracle. And this snow, it looks like it was ripped straight out of the Charlie Brown special, Charlie Brown Christmas, which, fun fact, it was. This is actually a sprite that I made from the snowflakes from the show. And it came out incredibly cool looking. I'm not going to lie.
It's beautiful.
I'm going to use it everywhere now.
Snow. Effects animators everywhere rejoice. This is
they do rejoice. Oh, by the way, everyone, I'm Seth. This is Hashi. In case you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to VFX and Chill, a show where we try to break open Hollywood VFX and put them back together again, live with no preparation whatsoever, except for our overly complicated OBS scenes.
Exactly. So yes, today we are really excited because we are here to discuss animation. It's something that comes up a lot on our show. It came up in our lovely episode with Penny Niederlander, and it came up a bit with Zach Dixon. And we just realized that that a lot of people are interested in compositing for animation. It seems to be there's an awareness that animation doesn't just come together because you want it to. So Seth, you have made several.
It's useful not just for doing like.
Oh, Michael, hold on. We can't hear you. We can't hear you over here. Hold on.
Wait, let's head over there.
Let's head over there. Here we go. Go into Michael. Go into Michael. Go into. Hey, Michael.
Oh, whoa.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I was just saying that doing animation compositing is not only useful if you are doing animation for like a story, but also even just things like explainer videos, which many motion graphics people have to work with.
That's
doing
absolutely true.
A few little compositing tricks to help make your explainer videos look better can go a long way to boosting the quality of your work, which is good for not just your clients, but also for you and your reel.
That's true. You know, I just saw somebody.
Some advice worth 5 cents.
Absolutely. I just saw a great comment in the chat that said, I just easy ease everything. And you know what? We're actually not going to be talking much about animation, actually. We're going to be talking a lot about, I mean, maybe you might, Hosh, but I think we're talking mostly about the kind of the compositing side of animation and the extra little details that really seal the deal.
So, yeah, we'd be remiss to not mention that the actual art of animation, taking a pencil or mouse or whatever to your medium of choice and creating life out of still images played in a sequence is a lifelong pursuit to master. And we are not going to be able to cover any of that because I am not qualified to teach the advice of
neither am
2D
I.
animators.
Good Lord, neither am I. Except, I mean, unless you look at this particular animation, ooba-doo-doo-doo-doo-ba-doo. Hey, ooba-doo-doo-ba-doo.
I don't know, it's pretty decent. It worked for Parker and Stone, right? So.
Oh, Hush, I love you. Merry Christmas.
It's so sweet.
Marco, I love you too, pal. Hey.
Now, Seth has worked on several quite successful animated shorts on YouTube.
Sorry, hang on. Says the guy who's worked on several very successful animated feature films, Hollywood feature films. All right, we'll call it fair.
Sure. So you did a couple of viral vids. I worked at DreamWorks Animation for a decade and made a very goofy pilot for Disney XD once.
I'm sorry, it's just like you made a couple of slightly viral things. I worked at Disney and DreamWorks.
You're right. Yeah, that's what I heard earlier. That's exactly what I heard earlier. And the thing is, the humility, it's Hashi, so the humility is real. It's real and genuine. And Michael and I are over here like, you don't know what you're saying.
Anything you work on, like a true artist can never be satisfied with their stuff. And again, that's like the least humble thing I've said all day is lumping myself in with real artists. But yes, we are going to be talking not computer animation today. we are talking specifically about 2D animation, and more than that, how to take 2D animation, which, as most people know, is usually some combination of a background that has been painted by a very talented background artist, and a character or subject that has been animated and overlaid on top of it. But it's not quite that simple. And so we're going to be talking about all the different ways that animation has been brought to life and made to look, stylized or artistically better, or whatever the artist's whims are. Because when you're in an animated world, you design everything about it.
And I find this is like the least talked about side of this like art form. Like, and not that it's not talked about, 100% is, but because it's, like, you think of animation, you think of, either like artists drawing at vertical sketch boards, or you imagine, people sitting and animating keyframes, or, moving around in front of mirrors. But like, there's the side of it of like integrating everything together, that the history of it is like the way people have done it in the past up until now, even up till now, is all incredibly fascinating and like always remarkably fascinating to learn about and maybe not even learn about, but like realize. Because I feel like a lot of times we'll watch behind the scenes, or these days it's a lot of artists on Twitter, they're like posting their like process shots or their work, and you're like, whoa, like I didn't even realize that like this thing had such intricate lighting and shading and like rim light and all this stuff that you were using to integrate this thing in. It didn't just get drawn that way. I'm just repeating things you're saying. I
feel bad because there was a tweet not too long ago that I feel like encapsulated a lot of what you're saying, which is just basically, it was, shoot.
Was it the one you retweeted?
I think I did, and I thought that I could find my retweets quicker.
Because you referenced your some DreamWorks stuff, some Kung Fu Panda stuff. I think you did in that. Was it the guy who posted that? Never mind. I'm gonna shut up.
Yes, I'm completely forgetting who posted it, so I feel terrible. But I'm gonna scroll through and look for that in the meantime. But overall, I think, Seth, that neither of us are covering 3D animation. We're both talking about 2D or 2.5D animation compositing, yes?
Yeah, I think so. You had a clip you kind of wanted to start off with, right? Is this an appropriate time to go to it?
Sure, yeah. We can go ahead and play that. And so long as people can hear this, so let's head over to the screen here.
Oh, who's that? I know that guy.
Oh, that is Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. God, star of Forrest Gump, beloved actor. Here he is showing his plans for the keyboard in Big. People don't know he actually designed it before dancing on it with Robert Loggia.
Precisely. Now, this is actually Walt Disney demonstrating a really, really cool piece of equipment that if you have not seen in person, you should just go let yourself into the Disney Animation building over on in Burbank, and you can see it hanging out in the lobby there. But basically, this little special here was wonderful. It's Walt Disney talking about how the process of animation is based on having a background and a photographed cell, and in these days you had to do everything manually. So, for example, you would swap out and register each of these cells, take a film photograph of each of these, which is why a lot of these characters have a slight drop shadow, which is a really cool retro look now. And so this art form is a little bit lost because a lot of it is accomplished digitally nowadays. Can
you clarify something for me, though, that I've never really understood or known, because I didn't go to school for animation? How are the color fills like so solid? Like why are there no brush strokes in the color fills?
Well, one of the complicated things about doing animation like this is you're painting on a piece of celluloid, as you could see them swapping in and out. And usually they go to an ink and paint artist first. And that's a very underrated part of the process. Usually an animation is sketched out frame by frame in something that ends up being called a pencil test when you shoot it, so you can kind of get an idea of the full animation. But then it goes to an ink and paint artist, also the name of the lovely club from
Roger Rabbit. Yeah,
Roger Rabbit.
We'll get to that.
Absolutely. And the ink and paint artist is responsible for doing a clean version of all the lines being interpreted by the pencil sketch. And then those are translated to the celluloid, where everything is then painted behind the ink and paint lines. And so then once you photograph everything over an opaque surface, at least, you should have a really nice, solid character. But there are many examples of being able to slightly see through that paint or whatever. And I'm just babbling at this point. But
no. So I threw you off. Sorry, we had a reason to talk about that clip though, and I totally forgot what it was.
Oh, the reason is when Disney made Bambi in, what was that, 57-ish or something. They really wanted to. They really went for it with this opening shot, this beautiful multi-plane pan through a forest, which I think they play with later in the clip.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll pull it up right here in my After Effects. We'll hack this one.
Beautiful.
1942, by the way.
What was that?
42.
Bambi came out in 42.
Oh, you know what?
Wow.
I am looking at the air date of that clip from The Wonderful World of Disney. I should have known better. Anyway, later in this clip, they demonstrate how if you take a piece of artwork and you want to demonstrate perspective to this, I think.
Also, your desktop's on screen, just so you don't have, make sure you don't have anything.
Oh yeah, just diving through here. We've got this lovely zoom in. This is a sample of a non-multiplaned image, I believe. And the artist in just a second will show how this is just a single painting. And it has no depth as he spins it back and forth. You could just kind of scrub through this all the way to the end.
I love it that way. He holds it up as you see. There's no
what
depth.
the heck?
Like I want him to run. What the heck? He's surprised.
Well, no, he does. He turns it back and forth and says the problem is when you
the
turn
hell
this
is the
aside,
depth?
you get no perspective. But what if you were to here we go.
Look at
break
that.
this image into a bunch of different pieces.
That's a good infographic.
You could now start kind of doing some effects that are a little bit more what we would expect to see if a camera were to translate. So look at this amazing camera that they built right here. It's ginormous. And look what you can do now as you have all the pieces of the painting broken apart. This is one of the fundamental basics. It seems very, very simple now, and everyone's like, yeah, I get it, I know.
Doesn't matter. That's why it's so cool.
These days, this was crazy. They had to figure out how to shoot down through this down-shooting film camera and also try to film it in a way that you're keeping as much of that in focus and properly lit from frame to frame as you go throw cells in between.
Oh, right, because this is lit, because
Yes.
they're actually shooting it.
Yes, and
So
there has to be a lot of light. There has to be
without getting reflections from the glass. Holy cow!
And there's got to be a ton of light too. If you know things about lenses, there has to be a lot of light in order for all of those planes to be in focus at the same time as well.
It is a remarkable process.
And this is shot without traveling mats, right? They just shot it all. They shot all the layers at once.
Mm-hmm. Later on in the clip, if you scroll to the end, they do a little demonstration of how. Look at that! Look at this. So
and all these guys look exactly like I would expect them to. They all look like Fred from I Love Lucy. Yes.
Shirt and But yeah, this is amazing. They show how the rollers operate each of the different levels separately. Man. And you can see through the camera the way you can just adjust a foreground, background layer.
I would just play with this all day.
If you have no, rhyme or reason behind it. But if you are an animator, you meticulously plan out every bit of rotation on those knobs and what they represent in terms of translation. And you end up with something that looks like moving in parallax.
I immediately imagine what this guy getting this shot all set, right? Winding up the things all right, good to go. And then the camera comes loose from its joints and just plows through every single layer of glass.
My goodness. I love imagining that now. Oh, and here's a little playthrough of that.
That's so
I think
cool.
of the absurd Yeah, watch the opening shot of Bambi. It is this long wandering through the beautiful woods to get us to the opening scene.
That's so cool.
Anyway, that's a long discussion just to explain that, yeah, you can make 2D animation based on artwork look 3D by kind of breaking it up into different pieces. So that's one of the very first things that I wanted to go over. So to bring us to a halt one more time, let me summarize what I think that I am ambitious that we'll be able to cover today from my end. Okay. I would love to talk about how to take flat pieces of artwork and do the digital version of what we were just looking at, which is multiplaning and creating some fake perspective or parallax out of paintings.
Ooh,
and then
smart.
after that, I would like to show how you can relight or add atmosphere to these kinds of sets to make them look a little bit different. Sometimes you have one master painting, but you have a bunch of storyboards that take place and have a different layout. And it would be valuable if you didn't have to paint every single background art piece of art, but if you could have a wide shot that covered everything, it would be nice to be able to frame within it or be able to make that painting go a long ways. And then after that, we'll talk about inserting some characters into there and how to integrate them and make them look good from the animation perspective. And Seth, I believe that you are going to do something similar, but even more exciting.
No, not even more exciting. Equally, I think what's great is we have a nice Venn diagram of what you're covering, what I'm covering, from both of our different worlds. So you are going to cover it from the actual like all animation side, all like digital, not, I don't know what's the right word, not digital, illustrated, whatever the right word would be there. Whereas I really want to talk about integration of live action and 2D animation or illustration. Because it allows me to talk about Roger Rabbit some and Mary Poppins even.
Hey.
So where do you want to start?
Well, Seth, why don't you give a little backstory of the history of Roger Rabbit and what you're talking about when you say, Mary Poppins or Roger Rabbit style animation.
Yeah. Which is the official, Hollywood term, is Roger Rabbit or Mary Poppins style, which is also, Mary Poppin Lock is also a dance move people refer to regularly, I imagine. I don't know why my mouth needed to say it. It didn't need to happen, and I regret it. Here we go. So just to give some example, like some of the clips that are and projects I'm going to be referring to, I've done several animated shorts with my kids in the past. The most recent one being Dino Feast, that my daughter Ava wrote and illustrated and narrated. My pal Tony Hale cameoed in. It's a very, very fun piece with a really fun behind the scenes that's on our YouTube channel. Do go check it out. It's one of my favorite things that I've done in a while.
One of my favorite Tony Hale as well.
It's great.
So.
It's such an extensive role with so many lines. So I'm going to talk about, this is illustrated elements that have been animated on, integrated into like environments created from live action photography. And so I'm going to show kind of some of the ways that methods I use to integrate this stuff to make it feel physical and lived in, even though it's clearly, 2D animated. Another project that I worked on fairly recently, my pal Joey Ellis, who's an illustrator, an artist, and hilarious dude. He has this property he created called Leaky Timbers, about Wolfie Monster and his two brothers. And several years back, he invited me to direct a pitch piece for a TV show version of this property. It never got picked up. It's a very funny pitch piece. I think you can watch it online somewhere.
How did you guys land George Clooney? He is a good sport.
Oh, incredible. He was very, very malleable as a performer. What's fun about that is, what's fun about it is it was the reverse of Dino Feast or Roger Rabbit, in that it was live action elements integrated into an illustrated world, which actually tripped me up at first for a little while because which reasons I'll, get into. A little bit of autobiographical setup. We're going to talk about two of my absolute favorite movies in the entire world today. One of which is Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins has this extensive sequence that takes place in in an animated, fully all animated world. And if you watch that movie again, by the way, it's like so seamless, the integration in that scene. Like they fully exist in that world, and it's incredibly cool. And what's even cooler is, this is a little off topic, but I have to just talk about it just in case there's one person out there who doesn't know about this process. They did not shoot this on blue screen or green screen. They used what's called it's a sodium vapor process. I believe Petrovlahos was that. Is that the right one?
Oh man,
you don't know? Okay.
I do not know.
All right, somebody genius created the sodium vapor process, which instead of shooting in front of a green screen, you film the actors lit in front of a like white backdrop lit by sodium vapor lights. And these are the same lights that you'll find in like a grocery store parking lot. It's those orange ratty lights. And the reason they shoot with those lights on the background is because sodium vapor emits light at a very specific wavelength, like a very small wavelength. And the camera is shooting through a prism, this like coated prism, into a 3-strip Technicolor camera, and it sends out, basically that prism is able to separate that sodium vapor light from the rest of the light being captured. And so you get
insanity.
And it separates it onto 2 strips of film. Actually, it's Technicolor, so I think that's 3. So it's now going to 4 strips of film, I believe. But for all intents and purposes, we'll just say 2 today. So you get 1 strip that is just the sodium vapor, and you there have a track mat or a traveling mat, or like a Luma mat that's aligned perfectly with the footage of Dick Van Dyke and I almost said Julia Roberts, and we're just going to go with that. Dick Van Dyke and Julia Roberts, Julie Andrews, and on the other strip of film, you get the 2 of them on a black background. It's unbelievably insane. And so today I do actually real quick want to try this in my office today. I'm just kidding. I can't do that. The sodium vapor camera there, I believe there's only 1 prism ever made, and Walt Disney owns it, so that ain't gonna happen.
They probably won't let you borrow
and then someone dropped it, right?
Yes. So, well, if I was allowed to use it, yes, it would have been dropped immediately, day 1. All right. From Mary Poppins, then we go to Roger Rabbit, which this is the thing I think of, the movie I think of when, like, this is the goat of live action and animation integrated together. And it was this special, this making of special that I saw on TV when I was 4 or 5. That was like, this is maybe, I talk about Jurassic Park a lot, but I think this making of doc, specifically this sequence here, this segment about the weasels, the scene where the weasels raid Valiant's office. This is like probably the most seminal moment of my like whole life in terms of my career, where like I was like, like grown-ups do this for a living, and this is absolutely what I want to do.
It was the microwave popcorn moment when it started making lots of noise in that brain, like
let's
just roll with that. It was a good metaphor.
It's it's great because you look at how hard they made it for themselves. They're already putting animated characters into live action scene, but to really sell it, they are having these animated weasels carry live action guns, like splashing live action water. Roger comes out in a second and spits out live action water. Bob Hoskins giving the most underrated performance in the history of cinema. Like, the guy is acting almost always to nobody and nothing, and having to like, not only that, but like move this stiff pair of handcuffs on his wrist. Anyway, I'm talking too much about Roger Rabbit.
Though, having watched Pete's Dragon last night, the original Disney Pete's Dragon, which does some of the same kinds of things, it's remarkable to see how much the performance connects you with the character. And both the animators and Bob Hoskins did an incredible job in Roger Rabbit, that I absolutely believed the eye line of every single character. And I mean, it's a study just for visual effects in general, that they sell every shot in that, looking at each other, and it's remarkable.
Absolutely.
And Pete's Dragon, it's very clear that the animators had less reference than they wished they had, and the actors had less reference than they probably wished they had. But it was a great learning experience.
Yeah. In fact, I would probably add that right there to the list of things that I'm about to show, which so really there'd be 4 things that I kind of, watching Roger Rabbit, have always taken away as the main things to. So let's say, aside from performance, I would say the big, performance and eyeline. These are the 3 things from like a production aesthetic standpoint I feel like really sell live action animation integration from the production side. And that's, first off, is what I call it, like camera confidence, is this idea of shooting all of your plates as if they're not plates. And this is how I firmly believe you should shoot visual effects plates in general. Like I might get flack for saying this, but like, I think you should always prioritize making it difficult for yourself if it means shooting a plate in the same way you would have shot it if it weren't a plate. Move the camera if the rest of your movie is moving the camera. Move the camera on your VFX shots. Put tracking markers up, whatever you need to get as much data as you can, but move the camera. That already is going to make the audience feel like something is real here. The other big one, and this is a big one on Roger Rabbit, is lighting and shading. And this is one I think we're going to talk about a lot today. Like the shading on these characters in Roger Rabbit, like, is so smart. Look at that, like the swinging light in that one scene, and like as they're driving, going in and out of shadows, the way that it matches so well is so great. And then the third one is mixing mediums, this is my favorite one of all of them. Like that weasels scene of just like, don't just slap a 2D layer into a 3D background. Like, make it hard for yourself. Integrate this stuff somehow. So yeah, that's I'm going to be geeking out a little bit about that kind of stuff today. But I've talked a lot, so maybe we'll go back to you, Hash. What do you want to talk about?
Absolutely. Well, I would love to jump into it. I'm going to, like I said, try to discuss breaking artwork into a usable environment in After Effects, integrating characters with them using a handful of just the most basic tools for making animation look decent. And then if we have time, I would love to cover creating some organic elements from scratch in animation. Things like smoke, fire, water, splashes, things like that.
Ooh, I hope we get to that, because that sounds fantastic.
I've got some of that in mind too, but from a live action point. So what are you doing first? Are you doing this multiplaning stuff, or?
So yeah, the first thing I would love to acknowledge Andrew Embry and Sean Depew, who gave me access to some wonderful footage. So look at this. They sent some wonderful animated pieces, which, like I said, the animation part of this is ridiculously hard, and it's something that I couldn't possibly cover. And so I reached out to the community, and these 2 gentlemen swooped in with some lovely bits of animation. And so we've got all of these from Andrew. We've got this lovely example scene, basically, from Sean, which is the most straightforward, simple way you could put something together would be you'd have, a background. You'd then have your characters, which you could sort of, whoops, that's the wrong layer there. You could place your characters around, and this is a nice, clean look, modern look for something like your kids watch this on their iPad kind of animation. And but what I want to do is I want to try pushing all of these looks to a much more cinematic look. So the first thing I'm going to start with is creating an environment. And what I was able to find online was this, let me see if I can open up the initial one. Here we are. I downloaded this EPS file from iStock, which is lovely, and having it as an Illustrator file, basically. Whoops, I forget I'm half screen here, huh? So
I could maybe make it full screen. Let me see what I can do.
Well, let me get my Illustrator. I can snap my Illustrator to it. I'm just don't know why it's not auto. All right, there we go. So now you can see it comes in and it looks like one little layer up here, but actually, because it's the vector file, it has all of this information in it. And so if I go through, I can turn off props and things like that, and then get all the way down to the background. And one of the very first things you have to do is often an artist will provide you a piece of artwork that is based on a specific moment or is a really nice wide shot of the environment you're going to be working in. And one of the amazing things about their paintings is that they'll usually have a lot of informed lighting, and they'll be set up for a specific dynamic moment or something like that. But when you're the animation compositor, you may be tasked with trying to turn what they have painted into something that works with what a storyboard artist has laid out. And storyboarding is getting ignored in the things that I've said so far. Storyboarding is it's so essential to creating a great, successful, any kind of film, I think, actually. But especially in animation, where you have to create everything, it's a really great way to plan out how your characters will play and how the framing will inform the storytelling. And the luxury of painting every single background to match the storyboards would be difficult. So one of the things that I was used to doing was breaking apart these very talented artists' images and trying to go in and remove little aspects of their image that had to do more with shadows and lighting within them. So let me try to guess which layers are in here. There's like this lighting path right here, which I can disable or move out of screen until you can see I've actually already completed this task, which is removing all of the lighting from this until I get a nice flat piece to start working with. Because I would love to add back in the kind of lighting informed by this later. Yeah. And on top of that, I want to try to push this from looking cartoony to looking dramatic over the course of this. What do you got going on over there, Seth?
Well, so talking about lighting and integration, let's talk about that a little bit. Like, one of the references Joey gave, one of Joey's favorite references for when we were setting out on Leaky Timbers was The World of Gumball, which is such a great and awesome looking show.
And the writing on it is excellent too, by the way. But,
absolutely.
Yeah, the look and feel is just gorgeous.
Absolutely.
And unique.
It's the kind of thing where it's like, this is clearly made with love and an intent to be interesting and like to make something special and unique. And so this was his his like main reference for like what he wanted the Leaky Timbers to feel like. The thing is, we were working with like I said, it was the inverse. It was live action puppets on integrated into Joey's illustrated environments that he created. And I got really bumped up on this because like I had tricks for how to like light and integrate and shade like a 2D element and comp it into a live action like setting that I knew how to do really, really well. Well, as I felt like I knew to do really well, but compared to like dropping a character into an illustrated background, it always ends up just looking like they're on. How do you do it without making it look like they're on just like a cardboard set? First off, we realized there's nothing wrong with there being the cardboard set of it all, but the big thing that I found that really helped was first finding lighting, like first just figuring out how to like make it feel actually like lit, like make the light, any light in it real. And so here's some process shots of me taking Joey's illustrated backgrounds and like figuring out where's the light source, where are the light sources in this shot, how can I add some bloom to that light using various kinds of glow or trap coat shine to try and like have some of that light lingering in the air, and then using and then obviously cutting the thing up into pieces and doing like a 2.5D stuff wherever I could, and creating shadows and using masks to create gradients throughout and light throughout, and then I would also go in and put in like stock footage like smoke and fog and things into the scene wherever needed. There's also, I can give you a good example. We also, talking about mixed mediums, from Roger Rabbit, Leaky Timbers, Joey had made this giant car. Like, he had this, before I even came to the project, he was like, oh, also I have a car. I was like, what? And he pulls me into this room and he shows me this giant car that he had made based on his art. And so we shot the puppets behind this car on a green screen, and then he was like, I also made the street, like I made the city, I printed them all out and I made them all as these flats on a table. And he shows you in this table, it's like this Christmas village from like a trailer park, and it's like he kept calling this is Sesame, this is the trailer park part of Sesame Street is what this show is. And so he's like, he shows me, I put the camera on a slider and we just like get these background plates sliding across these shots of this like flat. So there's like so much practical stuff in these shots, with things like smoke and sparks added throughout, and then various like illustrated backgrounds filling in wherever they needed to. It ended up being a whole lot of fun. So like, I forgot my point of this. Talking about Dino Feast, I used a lot of the similar shading techniques in that. And so I figure what I might do while you're doing your side is, I might, go about compositing, one of my Dino Feast shots, kind of the way that I did it before. And then show you some of the ways I like made that process a little more efficient over the course of it. So anyway, that's what I might do over here.
I love it.
What about you?
All right. Doing well. So I'm going to try breaking apart this very simple piece of artwork and turning it into an environment that I can kind of move around a bit. So I'm just going to walk through the most basic of 2.5D setups. So I would like, first of all, so I've just isolated the wall bit of it. It's very toony, but I would like to turn it into a looping wall, Scooby-Doo Flintstones style.
Nice.
And so
I love those walls are just like 80 miles long in those movies, in those shows.
So they really are. Like that's a neat house to have like a nice 60-foot hallway. And one of the most straightforward ways to do this is you take any layer like this, if it's flatly lit, and go to your filter, other, and then offset. And once I'm in offset, I can offset it just some amount. Let's offset it to right here. And you can see on screen that I've got a really clear seam. And granted, these are graphics, and it's really possible that from the vector standpoint, I could have created a much more simple way to seam these up, but you may not have that luxury. So I'm going to show you my very favorite tool to use when you need to personally modify somebody else's artwork, and that is the smudge tool. A really underrated and incredibly useful tool, because you can see, as I take the smudge tool, I can turn its strength up to 100. And then I can basically paint with any of the colors of the original image just by stretching them out like that. So if I look at some ugly seam like this, first of all, there's clearly some color disparity, but if I can combat that by turning the strength of it down and turning the hardness down, and you can start to just sweep things back and forth, smushing colors together, and get a nice blend until you've convinced yourself and your audience that it is not as loopy as you originally thought. So this is a very, this is the most artistic and in there way you could do it. It's just diving in. And normally I would do this with my other computer where I have Cintiq, so I could actually hold a pen and do this all. But honestly, just going through and doing
your
something
assistant,
like
right?
this.
Cintiq is your administrative
Cintiq's
assistant.
my unpaid assistant that does all of my background paintings for me. Snoopy!
What was that?
I'm muted on the show. You guys can hear it, but I'm muting it for the show, so I apologize to you guys.
Oh, yeah, we're hearing Seth get attacked by a dog in the background.
Yes, fully attacked.
All right, so I'm just going to do a lousy job right there. But the idea is the smudge tool is a really great way to extend backgrounds. And in the event that I had something being obscured, now this is relatively seamless. And I can just rename this layer to the wall or something like that. And then trick number 2, because I love working with pixels in After Effects, I try to prep everything so I can use that in that fashion. So I'm just going to copy and paste, or just make a little duplicate of the floor layer. And I'm going to do a little transform on it. I'm going to hold down, I think, Control, Alt, and Shift, which will allow me to perspective transform the floor a little bit like this. And you can kind of see how cheated the perspective technically is in terms of any of these actually lining up. But if I were to just resize this a little bit, maybe to something like this. Now I can turn this into a little ground plane. I'll just clip this little section out like that. Let's do a little Control Shift J and then toss the scrap from the side. And let's make this the full size of the screen so we can start doing our little offset trick again with it. Let's say it looks somewhat like this. And let's do some clone stamping. Why not? Clone stamping can work, but when you're working with animation or art, you can't do that soft feathered thing you could do with a photo. You really need it to be committed to these lines. So let's just duplicate a little bit of stone floor over here. This is going to be the worst job of this. But I really want you all to see that it's all possible.
Seth, there's a question in the chat about your short films. Do you do the color grading on, say, Dino Feast yourself, or do you have someone go behind you and get the color grading completed?
Great question. I've color graded all of them, I believe, except for darker colors. That's just talking short films. All my commercials are graded by somebody else, but several very, very talented, some very talented colorists who I'm very fortunate to work with, including on darker colors. But all the other shorts, like Dino Feast, I graded myself. Excuse me. Sorry.
Incredible. that was so dismissive. Nice.
No. This you're sounding like I normally do on the show, where I'm like so focused, and then I realize, oh wait, Hashi just said something really interesting, and I just say something half committed. Let me see how this is coming. Incredible. There, you did it.
Incredible.
Well done.
Valuable. So all I'm doing is I just wanted some kind of flourish thing that fills the screen. I'm going to crop it down so it doesn't have that extra slop on the sides, and then I'm going to do that offset trick again to this layer. So let's say filter offset. It's under other offset. And I've offset it like that. So there's a really clear seam that I don't like. But just using the smudge brush, I can go in and
smudge brush,
make that a little bit more round. I could erase that. And just make this a little bit more of a stone here. And hopefully, because I've offset it, the ends will tile perfectly. But the middle is kind of up to you artistically to kind of make loopable like that. So now I can call this the floor. And then I can go back to my Illustrator file. And often this is actually a Photoshop situation if you're working at most studios, which is one of the reasons why I love After Effects for doing 2.5D work. So let me find, it may take me a second over here just to find the props from this original image. Let me just close everything and reopen it, because I do not know what the 9-slice scaling means. All right.
So everybody knows what 9-slice scaling means.
All right, let's turn off the background here. Let's look at this column. The way they do the shadows is really simple. It's just a big solid like that. But it's pretty cool. But if I can turn off the shadow, then I get a much more uninterrupted column like this. And, I'm just going to take this whole thing. I'm going to export it as a PNG file here. And let's say export, and then hopefully this will give me some options here. Let's call this props. Whoops. Props. And resolution, let's crank that up to a high resolution with optimized anti-aliasing with a transparent background. I'll say okay there. And then hop back over to Photoshop, where I will say, let's import that PNG and hope that it did what I think it did. Great. Here are all my props, which I'll just grab and copy everything and put them into this file, which I haven't saved yet. Another important step. Let's save this as a Photoshop file. We'll call this the tomb. I don't know. So now we've got a wall, a floor, and now these exciting props. So I left this shadowed column in here just for a little reference for myself, because I just want to remember how they shade it in the very flat way. But I'm going to select all of these pieces and break them out. So let's grab these. If anyone knows what these are called, just let me know in the chat.
Speaking of the chat, Cody is wondering what you did at DreamWorks. They are unaware.
We're all
of
wondering
your
what you really
Kung
did
Fu
at
Panda
DreamWorks.
skills.
Oh, everyone wants to know. So at DreamWorks, I worked on any sequence that required some kind of 2D intervention. And so the main things that I'm very proud of working on at DreamWorks, and Seth, could we maybe pull some of these up?
Yeah.
Let's start with Kung Fu Panda 2. That's the thing that I think I'm the most proud of. So Kung Fu Panda 2, here's a sequence that I did. Whenever they flash back or Po is trying to imagine something, inside of Po's head is basically a Samurai Jack aesthetic world. Kind of 2D, beautiful art moving around. And this is a wonderful sequence that is a flashback of what really happened to his parents. Obviously, his dad in the movie is a duck, which goes unacknowledged for the most part in the first film. These flames are all created with trap code particular.
Yeah,
and so hopefully at the end of the episode...
That, right?
Oh, I don't... There might
Maybe
be.
not.
There's at least an article where I talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
All the snow is trap code particular, but all of this emotion is pure real.
Trap code particular. Oh, sorry.
Yes. And the difficult thing about this was at DreamWorks, we were doing these 2D sequences, but 3D cinema was all the rage. So a lot of the cheats that you would do in compositing needed to somehow be created in After Effects in true stereoscopic 3D. So you could render a left and a right channel of all these, oh, look at a little guy moments. So one of the fun parts about working on this sequence, actually, let's pull up, can you switch to the Tigress sequence from a TV special? This was a little sequence that directed by Rodolphe Guénedin, I believe, and it was a wonderful little practice session that all the artists in the After Effects department at DreamWorks got to work on. My primary function at DreamWorks, to go back to that one question, was I just campaigned really hard that they should have After Effects at the studio. And eventually, by the time we were doing these Kung Fu Panda bits, which, yes, were the characters were all lit in Toon Boom.
Yeah, I saw that question. I think Toon Boom is still like one of the go-to tools at these houses. A lot of these houses.
But the compositing, we wanted to integrate all that animation with these real pieces of artwork. So the challenge of this sequence was we knew what we wanted, like the water to look like, or what we wanted these forests to look like. But doing a simple background painting that could represent all of that stuff was very complicated. And so we worked really carefully with the art directors and production designers to create elements that could be arranged into forests or into water planes just based on their aesthetic input and recreate them with either trapcode particular or a ton of layers. And so that was, I believe, let's see, Rich Ramazinski, Eric Tillmans, and Jason Brubaker, and last but not least, Claire Williams, daughter of famous animator and creator of Roger Rabbit's actual design, Richard Williams.
Yeah, seriously? That's incredible.
So she was wonderful and had, of course, just stand warm there.
I'm listening. Sorry, I'm just cold. That's all.
Love it. And so Claire Williams went on to do some incredible ink and paint work and After Effects work, following in their father's footsteps, doing incredible stuff. The late Richard Williams, who everyone watching should be familiar with the Animator Survival Kit if you're not, in which he
good reference.
Very candidly gives away all of his absurd levels of knowledge about animation. So anyway, that's what I did when I was at DreamWorks, and
the
so
chat
right
is
now,
amazed at your ability to remember all of these names of people. Yeah, because
I am trying so hard. I am so terrible with names, and except for the fact that I was stuck in in an office with all of them I skipped Jason Stovall, and yeah.
Power Llama says you have a mind like a steel trap code.
Steel trapcode.
I'm a big fan of. I think I'm made of trapcode particular. Was that Julian? Everything is trapcode particular. I think I'm made of trapcode particular. And you said that's our new marketing tagline. I would like for that whole comment to be the marketing tagline, please.
I absolutely love that. So I'm doing exactly what we did with the paintings on those shows. I should give a shout out to the equivalent of our Michael, even though Michael has no actual equivalent, but on that show,
Michael does not convert to other currencies.
No.
He is only Michael.
But your production staff on an animated film can be very unsung heroes of keeping the entire operation running. Ryan Garish was mine, and I could have done none of what I did without him being my brain and memory for 3 years in a row of everything going on. So shout out to production staff as well, because all this is a lot of work. It takes a lot of organization.
How do you get Toon Boom stuff? How do you get the stuff from Harmony into After Effects? Is it just different layers from Harmony as ping sequences imported in After Effects or something like that?
That's basically it. I think we did EXRs or something like that. Mm-hmm. And one of the fun things about Toon Boom, and we'll somewhat cover it when we get to character shading, is that usually in 2D animation you have palettes. So every different scene has a palette, every different character has their own palette, and then the scene informs what the characters look like in that scene. So obviously in a night scene, a character will look way different than they do in a daytime scene or an indoor scene, assuming your budget supports it. And one of the cool things about Toon Boom and Harmony is that you can assign these palettes as you're doing the ink and paint stage. And you can say, the production designer wants the shadows of the blue in the sequence to look like this, and the highlights of the blue to look like this. And so they would output a lit version of a character, completely lit, and a shadowed version of the character, completely shadowed. And sometimes on top of that, when there was the manpower, an additional shadow pass, which was basically just a big black and white mat showing where the characters would have shadows on their faces or falling off around the characters. And about half the time on that last sequence we just showed, the lighting was done entirely in After Effects as a process, the shadow pass. Just kind of a balance and masking between the shadows or the shadow export and the highlight export for every single sequence. Seth, what have you got going on over there? I'm just going to rename these layers so they're memorable when I next spot, but that's all I'm doing.
So I was messing around with some super comp. Here's my, let me turn off this fog that I've got. So the big thing that I kind of want to talk about was the thing that really, really brought these shots together in Dino Feast for me was I went years until before you, and we talked about this on the show, but before you were like, try CC Light Sweep. And I was like, what the hell? Who the hell are you to recommend Light Sweep to me? Why would I ever put Light Sweep on something? Oh my God, Light Sweep is so useful. So if you're not familiar, for anybody here, it's such a useful tool here. I was used to, for bringing like a flat layer into, to make it feel integrated into like a 3D environment. A lot of times what I would just do is apply CC Vignette, and because if I didn't want to mess with 3D lights or anything, and I would just fake some like lighting fall off on this on the characters by doing a little vignette focused in the right area. Obviously don't want it to be too dark. But then you showed me Light Sweep, it immediately became, it replaced vignette almost like entirely. And what it does is, it adds a light sweep to stuff, right? But it's not just adding this like this, swoosh, this line through the T-Rex here. It's also applying that rim light, that backlight on the edge at the top of that layer wherever the sweep is. So like my go-to would be to smooth out the shape, increase the width, and I would just turn sweep intensity to 0 and leave the edge intensity on. So then I have this backlight that looks really, really awesome and realistic and useful, and immediately like here it is without, here it is with. But the problem with Light Sweep on its own is that a lot of times I don't want, a lot of times if I do want to include the sweep itself, it's an additive effect. It's not what I want. I want to darken everything but the sweep rather than increase the brightness where the sweep is. So before I show my solution to that, I do want to find out if there was an immediate way to do this in just the effect. I don't think there was. You can composite the sweep on, which will just drop this light color sweep right on it, or do a cutout, which will do it'll basically use the light sweep as your alpha channel, as an alpha matte, right? And put it on top of the layer, which is cool. That creates kind of a predator type effect. I think you use this, Hash, on your, when you do this kind of stuff. Are you muted? You're talking. Here, I see you talking.
I muted myself at some point. Yeah, all my valuable comments. No. So yeah, while you're on the subject, let's keep it on this.
You muted yourself again.
What have I done? Oh, somehow, there we go. All right, here is a beautiful looped sequence that I got from Andrew Embry, and I think that this is what I'm going to work on making a scene out of today. But to keep us on topic, let me show you real quick. A lot of the time, the way that kind of lighting rim that you have is done is people will do the classic duplicate this layer, and then they'll maybe fill it with, whatever color you want.
Yeah.
White is an obvious one. And then if you duplicate that layer again,
invert the alpha.
Fill. Exactly. So just, add this as an alpha matte or an inverted alpha matte, and then drag down your matte. And now you have a perfectly offset rim, which is the very classic look for animation. We covered this in the Zach Dixon episode. But Seth, I don't want to break your heart just yet. Well, actually, I kind of do. I don't know. Shall we?
We'll do it, because then I can show you my super convoluted rig that I created for doing it.
Okay. So there are many ways to shade characters, but I want to share one that I just love. And that is a very lovely effect called CC Glass.
Yeah.
I was going here, Seth. So look at that. So it's perfect. Done. I love it. Actually, no, you've got to do some prep first. In Glass, if you apply glass to a layer like this, you want to turn the displacement back down to 0 because you don't want it displaced. But what's kind of cool is now I actually have a little bit of this volumetric thing going on with this character. And right now, the property it's using is its lightness, which I really kind of like, because if I can use the alpha as well, and that makes it look like a big cookie, like everything is kind of the same layer. But when you use the luminance value, you actually get these interesting highlights in different spots because there is some slight, separation of the lightness in these elements. So this doesn't look very good, but watch this. If I go to the shading, right now you can see there's some specular, which isn't typically a look that you would have. So I'm going to turn the specular pretty much all the way down. And right here, you can see in the lighting, it's using this effect lighting where you can kind of change the height of this light and do some stuff like that.
Yes.
But on top of that, instead of an effect light, you could use After Effects lights. And now this is where it gets crazy, because as soon as I could add, let's add a red or an orangish light here. I want to pull it more red.
You're not breaking my heart. I'll tell you why in a second, but I
good.
just immediately want to defeat you and tell you you've not broken my heart.
Ah, dang it. So now I can bring in After Effects lights.
And this remains a 2D layer. You have not made it 3D. This
remains a 2D layer. And I can just do some stuff like, let's see, let's underlight him with this red, all the standard properties of a light. You can increase the feather and scale and stuff like that on him. And then let's add another light. Let's add like a key light or whatever. I don't want it to be that color though. I would like it to be just white to reveal the original colors. And you can have, like a little bit of light that's just highlighting what he looks like up here. And then you could add a new light. I'm overconfident, Seth.
No, bring his definition back now. So you he's a little flat and fluffy. Like, give him some contrast again, if you can.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's pull up the position and scale of this thing. A rim is always really great to help separate them from the background. So let's push this light way back here somewhere, angled forward. And let's see, let's turn its angle up and its intensity up, and let's bring its anchor point forward. Oops, where are we? I really want kind of a rimish light based on this thing. All right, Seth, you're welcome to start talking about.
So you've already landed on you've kind of landed on why that doesn't break my heart. This is actually what I want to avoid, because this is the kind of thing that happens. I'm not a trained cinematographer. Like I've never had really an eye for light. I can, and I definitely don't know how to achieve the look that I want. Like that's a skill that I never honed, and I have just worked with much more talented people in that regard when working on projects. And so being able to set up lights in a 3D space is not like what I want when that's not going to get me to a good look. It's going to get me a whole lot of I'm going to spend a whole lot of time tinkering until I find the look that I really want, just groping around in the dark, no pun intended. And so I'm looking for super 2D flat ways to be able to simulate lighting on these things in a way that where I can instantly kind of see, I can kind of find a look really quickly and simulate it that way, which is why I liked light sweeps so much, was because I didn't have to position any lights. I didn't have to do any 3-point lighting thinking or anything. I literally am just I can create a rim light and a sweep of light across this character, and I can change the angle of it or the width of it, and not have to not have to be positioning lights in any 3D space. The less things I have to break, the better. Now, with that said, like I said before, the problem was light sweep is an additive effect. It's not actually. I want to keep everything within the sweep at the levels that the layer is already at, and I want to darken everything where the light sweep is not. So the way that I figured out how to do it is, let me start by just using, this is an animation preset I made called Dino Shader while working on Dino Feast. I made this. I dropped this on, and you can see immediately I am now creating a shadow in the same way that you showed. the way that you showed of doing an offset like layer, but I'm doing it all on one layer using the little trick of the transform. Like, so let me walk through step by step what else going on here. So, let me see if I can select all and compress. Here we go. So we start by having this fill applied of black. Then I have a CC light sweep that is actually an option, so I'll ignore that one right there. Then I have a transform for opacity that is controlled by this shadow darkness control that lets me turn on and off the opacity of that fill. And then after that transform, that I have CC reptile that is there for some edge issues that I'll show you in a second. So
oh, clever. Reptile can slide in there to save a lot of edge issues in After Effects.
Fast blur to be able to create shadow diffusion if I want. But then here's where the magic happens is that I set the matte to itself, to its original shape. And then I have a CC Composite, which I've named Multiply, CC Composite on to multiply everything that I just did on top of the original layer. So now I have created this this shadow that's on him. It's set at an offset on this. That's also what this transform layer is doing, by the way, too. It's offsetting that fill. And then I have a light sweep inside of here. So check this out. Because I have, let me show you what the light sweep on. If I turn on, I now have this light sweep on top of the fill effect, like after the fill effect. And because that fill effect is ultimately going to be multiplied on top of the dinosaur, on top of the original layer, that white is going to become basically transparent. So it's going to create this like hole in the fill in the shape of that light sweep. Meaning this is what it ends up looking like, is instead of having an additive light sweep, I now have a light sweep I now have a shadow that I've applied to the dinosaur, and then the light sweep is just cutting out the part of that shadow that where I want there to be a light sweep. Does that make sense?
Clever. I love that. And you can get he's nicely negatively filled, just like the tree and everything else in there.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I could just apply another instance of light sweep for a rim light that actually follows the shadow angle if I wanted to. And so all of that wrapped up into an animation preset I called Dino Shader. And I would just drop this in and use this on layers to create this really dynamic, super stylized lighting on each of my characters in their scenes. And then on top of that lighting, I would then apply, I would then comp everything in with Super Comp. I also have this fog layer that I have unmulted and applied a tint to, but this live action fog layer, this stuff is all over Dino Feast, and it's such a great way to create this volumetric atmosphere.
That's so cool. Yeah. And it gives, there's a bit of, it feels like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Subsurface scattering, like the way, they feel a little bit like paper.
Yeah.
By the way probably the haze is interacting with them, so they have this hint of transparent going on, but not entirely.
Absolutely.
So really, really cool stuff. I just did one extra step over here, which was I kind of liked the way that this lighting was looking on this character, and then I just duplicated the layer and just did the old school trick of turning down the brightness and contrast of them, and then making another duplicate that was an alpha matte using the original zombie. You can tell that, or the mummy here, same thing, zombies, mummies, and vampires, I don't know. But yeah, you can offset this a little bit and get kind of a cool interior cool shadow look. And one additional thing you can do, instead of blurring this using like a box blur, you could also use a radial blur, and that's
Oh,
one
smart.
of my very favorite looks
Zach,
because
and Zach talked about that on the IV week, didn't he?
oh, perfect. I had
That's so
forgotten that.
smart. Because
And
then you
what's lovely
create.
about
Yeah, sorry, I'll shut up. Sorry.
Zach, no, yeah, you get it. It's blurring that. Let me see if I can showing just this. What happens is you get a really nice directional sweep from wherever the light is coming from, and like that. And if you're using this shape to mat the shadow in, then you get cool things like look at this. It looks like his teeth are casting shadows across
Yeah.
the inside of his mouth and stuff right there.
That's so smart.
And I've made this offset a bit much, but since the sweep is coming from over here, it should actually maybe be over here. But yeah, these are some wonderful fake ways to kind of do lighting on a character. So put a pin in that for now because we need somewhere to put this mummy.
Oh,
so
although I do want to say
yeah,
before you
go
get
for
started, JC, I see you in the chat, and I want to try your solution as well while Hashi works.
oh cool, JC, welcome.
Who's
And,
in the house? JC. Few of you will
JC.
get the reference. Michael did.
I am one of those few. Holy cow.
Oh.
I have not thought about that in a very long time.
Michael, Brian Beam and I have been doing nothing but that to poor JC for the entire, like ever since he first started coming to NAB. It's just saying who's in the house, and JC just quietly says JC, and and hates us.
They won't talk to him until he says it. So
Yeah, it's true.
become official.
Do you guys ever use layer styles for shading in After
Never.
Effects?
No.
I do.
Yeah, I don't either because it breaks a lot of things.
It
Well,
does.
I do. So deal with it.
You can. It's
Actually,
just
I used
especially
to.
you
but
can
I
use them in a pre-comp and then throw it into something else, but they break stuff. So I'm just gonna say this out loud so I can be doing it in the background. I'm going to jump in and import my tomb. And I always recommend making sure that you import something as a composition and retain the layer sizes, for goodness sake. You don't need all those extra empty pixels.
Yes.
So I'll just say, okay. And now I'm going to start building and you can talk, Seth.
Oh, I got nothing to say. Let's see. Well, I'll just walk through. So, JC, what did you like 5 or 6 years now? Yeah, it's true, JC. So, you were saying do sweep only. So that's cutout mode, I'm guessing, and then fill and then CC composite.
And all I'm going to be doing in the background is I'm individually dragging layers in so I can just by sight and by switching, F11, F12 between my two views, I can just dive in and like position the wall to be back here somewhere and, bring it up like that. Just figure out where everything kind of intersects so they can be nicely aligned.
What did I do wrong? I don't think this worked like we thought it might.
If you think I was paying attention to what that suggestion was and what you were trying to do.
Oh, no, here's what might work. Let's
JC says that should have been solid composite, not fill.
Oh, solid composite.
So over on my screen, I'm going to do something that's a little ill-advised, but since I've created these 3D layers, a floor and a wall, and I want to Scooby-Doo them, I could technically just add the effect Reptile on repeat and do like an expand left and an expand right and get a longer piece of footage. Like, look at this. Now I have this nice long hallway. And because After Effects has become better at this than it used to be, this used to really, really upset it. But I can just copy and paste this Reptile to both
I would
pieces.
like to point out, Hashi, that if you
Yeah.
were in the beta version and you toggled Draft 3D, you could see
Oh,
these things
you know what?
outside the comp bounds.
If you all haven't seen that, you really should. So what have we got? Boom. I'm going to open that up in the meantime. Michael, you are a treasure. All right.
Oh, what if... Sorry, I'm just thinking to myself.
So let me reset my camera here.
I'm sorry, I'm like sitting here like trying to understand JC's thing. I'm like, oh, maybe it needs to be this, and I just turned it back into what I had it before in my head. I can't figure you out, JC. Sweep only, solid composite, matte, CC composite. I do light sweep. I do sweep only. And by the way, just shut me up, Hosh, if I'm manipulating this with JC. Solid composite. Oh, I do have Video Copilot FX console, by the way. I use it all the time. But I also teach a class to I teach an introductory VFX class to folks, After Effects class, in which I try to use no third-party plugins. So I've actually gotten myself unused to FX console this semester.
Hashi, are you demonstrating this real quick with the ring thing, or are you jumping right into...
I'm going to dive into this. Let's see if I saved it properly. All right, so we are in... Whoops. All right, yeah, we're in After Effects beta, which if you have Creative Cloud, you should absolutely do, because I haven't updated it today, but they release a beta version of After Effects every day. I cannot believe that they do this. But one of the coolest features in beta, this is typically what something looks like. Let's see if we're in our 3D view, are we? All right. Let's see, what am I doing wrong? Turn on the floor there. All right. There we go. So normally this is what After Effects looks like. But look right down here next to this pull down under the... Is this where it is? Under renderer options? Oh, wait, no.
Just
what am I looking?
Draft 3D.
Oh,
not there.
Oh, there we go.
To the left, not there. Go left. Yeah, that button.
All right, so yeah, I'll click on Draft 3D, and then I will click to enable the extended viewport. And what that does is, let's switch back to, am I on the right camera? Oh, is Draft 3D not picking up these effects? Oh, there we go. All right, so look at this viewport.
Oh yeah, that's so useful.
So this viewport allows you to see your whole stuff, even when it's up here above screen. Look at that. This is incredible. Now, in this case, if I were because I'm using Draft 3D, it's not trying to render out the those effects. But because these are tileable, I really could just duplicate and paste them out like this as many times as I wanted to. And what a cool feature, everyone. You should definitely jump on and try using this. Unlike me in this episode, because I'm just going to close this right now and then go back to here. And I'm going to add in some 3D columns. Let's put their anchor point down at the bottom so they're easy to scale up and down. I always suggest putting your anchor point in a clever spot if you can. And I know this is just the same column, but let's go to a top view and do some duplicating. Let's move. The Egyptians were very specific, as far as I remember, with their design. They had a good knack for that, as it were. So let's just put some columns in here like that, and let's throw some posters on the wall. I think they call these posters back in the day. Papyrus posters. Is it papyrus or papyrus? I don't
Papyrus.
know. Papyrus.
Papyrus sounds like a feminine yeah. Sounds like a regular.
No, finish. Yeah.
No, it sounds like a routine medical thing for. Anyway. I'll be. I'm not. I'm a man. I don't know what those words actually mean.
A man surrounded by a wife and daughters.
I'm scared. Anyways, dug myself
right.
a little vocabulary hole.
So check it out. I placed all these layers in 3D. It's remarkable. So this is a 2.5D set, everyone. I'll click back to my scene camera, and you can see I have this nice little 3D kind of setup. Like this would be totally adequate for name your, PBS integrated app, like animation style, right here. And I do not mean to disparage any form of animation, because animation's hard, everyone.
So hard.
Right. So let's do a little camera. I'll just do a really generic multi-plane move. This is about as simple as you could get in a setup like this. The floor, I'm not in love with how much detail I'm getting on it, so I'm actually going to slide the whole thing back, so I'm kind of cutting off more of that, and you get some of that stone detail in there. Michael, you were right. The extended viewport would have made this make a lot more sense.
I don't know why you didn't just keep working.
Because I didn't.
I like turn your effects on later.
I like my reptile thing going on here.
But yes, so the ability to hit 1, 2, 3 and drag around for your camera controls is good, Julian. It's great. And to Jason Murphy, the render time thing in the new AE is awesome. Yes, it is. Being able to toggle Oscar on and see what specific effect is taking so long or expression is taking so long in your comp is delightful.
It is. And it's a turtle.
It is Oscar the snail.
Was that this stream or was that another stream? I don't remember.
I think that could have been Ask the Trainer, but I think it's been on our show before. Oscar the.
Oh, well, speaking of Christmas, by the way, we have on my other podcast, I brought up we didn't have to talk about this on mic either. On the other one, we talked about this on a rehearsal or a tech check or something.
Bring it up.
Michael pointed out how Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a problematic story because only when your disability proves useful does it have worth. Do you have worth in that story, which is not great.
It's a terrible message to tell kids. Yeah, go ahead and make fun of the disabled kid unless his disability proves useful. But otherwise, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. And there's no consequences. So anyway, we talk about that on the Writers Room Game Show next week on our special Christmas episode. I know I don't like to hype my shows on my other shows,
but because it is Christmas, y'all should go. Just go into another tab right now and type Writers Room Game Show, and then later on when you're closing tabs and you're like, "What was the? Oh yeah, this was that thing." You can treat yourself to any episode of that, and it's a real delight.
If you've ever been like, man, Seth's too loud on the show, but you know what? I could turn him up louder. I could take more of him. Then have we got another podcast for you, and that's the Writers Room Game Show.
Yes. All right. So I did what was very silly, which is come up with a camera move before I've actually tried blocking in my character. I'd forgotten that the zombie guy was a loop, so I did go to interpret his footage and make him more of a loop. Let me just turn off his effects for a second so I can see him very cleanly in here. Whenever you have a looped walk cycle or something like that, you have to, if you want to bring it as a 3D sequence, you've got to be conscious of how they move through the scene. So I've brought in the zombie, and he's hanging out right in the ground there. I will go adjust anchor point. So, and I'm assuming a he, but I haven't asked him. Let's see. And
I'm assuming a he.
All right, so I'll put that anchor point right there at the foot contact point. And that's important because it's nice to be able to scale a character from the ground. If you want to be able to scale your character from a couple of places, you can always add a second 3D null down here that the mummy is parented to, for example. But let me make this mummy a little bit closer to the camera, and let's determine what the walk speed of said mummy is. There's a couple ways we could do it. The easiest is just to add 2 keyframes to this mummy. I'll create one there, and then just go grab his little X gizmo and slide him straight along through this 3D set, and then go back and play through it and see how good my guess was. So let's see. All right, so basically what you start looking for is sliding. It either looks like they are moving too fast or they are walking on ice. In this case, he's sliding backwards a little bit. You can tell that because you just watch wherever his foot contacts down, and you can see that like the heel lands there with a little bit of space between.
This is where this is the hardest part for me, are walk cycles and getting them. Yeah, lining them up with the ground.
So usually you can also just like frame up so you can't see their feet, and then
That's
everything kind of works.
That's literally what I do.
Yeah, you can see that his heel slides back toward that pretty quickly, which means that the overall animation is not moving fast enough. So I'm just going to grab the position keyframe over here and slide it back a little bit, and let's see how this contact feels.
Someone just had a really fun idea, which is...
Ooh, what is that? What was that?
Well, if you could make it to where we can see a little more of the scene, what I can do here is... Let me see. If I can make you up here with the mummy.
Hey! Oh my gosh.
And I can make you run from the mummy. Let's see. Transform. Flip horizontal. Run!
Ah! Moving too fast.
Now you're bigger. Stomp. Stomp.
Let's increase the mummy, the camera speed. Let's see. There we go.
I like that you're so much bigger than the mummy now too.
Well, it's like an elephant. It's like an elephant fleeing a mouse. It's.
I also like that.
It's nature.
I also like that people might be tuning in for like advanced animation techniques, VFX and chill, and they come into that.
Yes.
Well, we got 60. Oh, we had 69 people watching. Now it's down to 68. Thanks for that, Seth.
I was gonna say nice, but now it's not nice enough.
So obviously, yeah, this is the most straightforward composite of this possible. It's the 2D character animated in front of some 2D artwork. It's fine, but it doesn't have a lot of mood, and I would like to start adding some more mood to this piece. So I can talk through what I'm doing, or Seth, if you want, we can.
I just want to.
I'm not sure what you're doing.
I just realized I have access to that mummy, don't I? Is that Sean's or Andrew's?
Absolutely. This is Andrew's.
Okay. Oh, Andrew. You know what's great is I have another. I have something else, of Andrew's too.
What?
Andrew and I worked together a long time ago at my very pivotal moment of my career. Andrew, many of you may remember this scene from Plot Device, the short film that got me my job at Red Giant. At the post credits scene, Ben breaks the Plot Device button, and then a little animated bird flies up and will not shut up and stop talking to him, and he realizes he's now stuck in an animated world. Andrew Embury, we found him on Twitter, and dude animated this little bird and some other stuff, other elements in a shot that followed it.
What the heck?
And
Andrew, too much talent.
Yeah, man. And so what I wanted to do today, and I'll do it in a second, is back then I just dropped this bird into the scene and did nothing else, like some kind of idiot. And so today I want to comp this. I'm going to comp this bird in the way that I
do this some justice.
Yeah, the way that I would now, which is like, overkill. I'm going to overkill this bird. I'm going to overcook this bird.
Perfect.
I'll just do it now. Why not?
All right, I am going to place some lights into my scene, and this does not always work out great, but I'm going to try anyway. So let's add some spotlights into this setup here. I'll just move them around a little bit. I want to kind of do this thing where let's have the spotlight cast some shadows. Now,
Seth, the chat says that other looks in this. I think it looks like you and Mr. Aaron Rabinowitz had a child.
Oh, we did have a child,
gosh.
But no one will ever meet that child. Ben, actually, we did have a child, and that child is Plot Device. What you're watching is that child. So fun fact about Ben and Shia LaBeouf. When Plot Device came out, one of my favorite, and I'm sorry to interrupt the teaching, Hashi. One of our favorite comments ever on Plot Device was, it might have been on AV Club or somewhere, where someone said, well, one on AV Club said the guy from Eraserhead had a baby, and I thought that was funny. But then someone else said Shia Jr. sucks. That's it. There was nothing else. Just Shia Jr. sucks. And Ben thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever read in his life. And so for Christmas, got him a shirt printed. Michael Lanier, who designed the Plot Device logo. Hang on a second, I'm going to find it. Created a Shia Jr. Sucks t-shirt for Christmas for Ben.
Oh my gosh.
And you can see him wearing it in the Red Giant tutorial. Is a Sandstorm. I believe we initially called it Dubai Hard, but then changed the name of that. Creating a sandstorm effect. And I can't find that tutorial. Does that tutorial exist, Michael?
It does. I saw it not too long ago. Alright. I'm going to try to make a scary shadow over here is all I'm doing. So this effect of using...
Hey, Seth, do you mean the Mission Impossible Sandstorm tutorial? Because Red Giant just put it in the chat.
Oh, yes. Thank you. That's the one I'm looking for. If you look at that, Ben is wearing the Shia Jr. Sucks. Anyway, you should keep teaching. I'm so sorry.
No, all I've done is actually something that I didn't think was going to work this well. Usually when you add After Effects lights to a scene like this, you get a very paper cutout vibe because it really reveals that everything is pretty flat. But if you do have some perspective for things like the floor or the columns on the ceiling or something, you can get kind of a cool effect. I actually didn't think these 3D lights were going to do what they're doing, but it's already cool. This is a way cooler shot.
I'm sorry, that's like you're you're Indiana Jones, like shining a flashlight through a tomb. That's pretty amazing.
Let's see.
Look at that. That's cool.
So you just see this shadow of him on the wall first. And you can't quite see what he is, and the shadow goes through, and then. See, I wish you couldn't see that little flash of him beforehand, but here he is, and then let's see. Once he gets to here, look at this. This is really cool. And then on top of this, what if we went in and went to the camera setting and let's, I'm going to add a new null object, and I'm going to attach this null to my zombie, and then I'll switch it to 3D after that. And what that'll do is it'll make sure that it's pretty near the zombie anyway. I'll move it over here. I'll move it to where the zombie's face is. So now I have a null that is wherever the zombie's face is. It's called a zombie, even though I feel like I should be saying mummy, but
yeah, Andrew, come on. Learn the difference.
So mummies are only here for an amount of time granted to them by their mummy's curse or gift, right? It's temporary. A zombie is a newly reanimated thing. And a vampire is what? A vampire needs vampires and zombies. That's a tricky one. But Seth, I learned this trick from you. I'm going to select this 3D null object and the camera, and then I'll just I'll select these two, and then I'll right-click and say camera, link focus distance to layer. And that means that from now on, the focus distance of this camera is going to be locked to where that null is, which is perfect because now I can go ahead and turn the aperture up a little bit until I can see some blurring in the background there. Gosh, I feel like I'm having to turn this up too much. Oh, do I not have it on? Depth of field is off. Son of a gun.
Yeah.
All right. Turn it on.
The best of us.
And then let's start dialing up the aperture. There we go. Just a little bit of depth of field coming in here. So now we can put the camera focus right where the zombie resolution for a second so you all can see it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. and the background's a little bit out of focus. And you can always play around, eat everything in a scenario like this. So I could, instead of using the camera's actual depth of field, which could be maybe intense for the computer to do, you could also just blur the background and blur out the columns or something like that and leave him in focus, which would be kind of fun to do. So I'm just going to be playing with some more lighting and stuff in here. My goodness, a lot of time got eaten up. There are so many more things I want to share, everybody.
I'm so sorry because I wouldn't shut up about Shia Jr. sucks.
No, Shia Jr.'s all right. Let me duplicate this zombie, and I'm going to create a copy of him by pressing, duplicating him, and then I'm going to double tap and go disable the acceptance of lights. And then on this copy, I can do some specific shading kind of stuff. Because these guys are right on top of each other, I'm going to get some 3D garbage. But I'm going to try avoiding that by doing a simple cheat of just moving him a teeny bit forward. This is not recommended. Whoops.
Do not try this at home.
Do not. This is silly, and it's probably happening because I'm at half res. Is that true? Yeah, in full, it's not happening. Whatever. All right. So I have a lit scene light mummy, and then not acknowledging the scene light mummy. And let me see what happens if I add CC glass to this one and do the same stuff I did earlier. Let's turn off the displacement down to 0. Let me see what happens if I say use the After Effects lights. I don't know how this will react. Do you react to the After Effects lights as you pass through? Probably not. It's probably used because it's on a 3D sprite now. Oh, well, I'm just going to use the effect lights in here. So that right around here, I can add a thinking kind of a bluish light here. That will. And I'm going to make the source a point light so I can drag it around using the glass. And then I'll turn off his circular. Down. It shouldn't be receiving any ambient, right? Great. Yeah, just a little bit of volumetric out from the back there. I like. I can for his whole blending mode, I'll switch it to screen. And now I think I'll get a combination of these two. They're too close to each other. I could always jump up here and add an adjustment layer between these two so that it'll automatically pop them apart like this. But it'll break some of the other 3D stuff going on. Ooh, now he's a ghost. Now he's a ghost mummy. Ghost mummy.
Ghost
See,
mummy.
He's transparent when he walks through columns. But yeah. Now he's got these blue shadows, which I kind of like. Though actually, what would have happened if I didn't do that whole glass thing? What if I just added some ambient light to this all? What if I added some ambient blue light? I've gone completely off track of my prepared teaching materials because I really love this, the way this mummy's looking. All right, I'm going to turn up the ambient to like a low amount there. Is that coming across in the stream? I can't tell how dark it is on my screen versus where it is. There's sunlight shining on my monitor right now, which is...
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. We can kind of see him, yes.
Yeah, so there you go. Now he has some definition in and out of the shadows, which is kind of cool. But let's dive into his pre-comp and add some stuff that'll come through a little bit more cleanly. So what if I put in that negative fill on him? Again, what does that look like when I'm back in this tomb? Ooh, now he looks kind of.
Every time you say negative Phil, I just think of your content-aware Phil character being all sad.
He's so
I
negative.
know. So negative. Come
So
on,
mean.
Phil. Stop it.
Why did this break?
All right, let's see. We're just going to adjust the radial shadow a little bit like that until we have an angle that I like. And then I'm going to turn down the amount of filled in shadow there. And then I'll pass it along. Oops, I'm so used to my comp being over there. Let's rename it. Let's call it the tomb. All right. Okay. So now we've gone from a very PBS look. I don't. Why am I throwing shade on the amazing
Yeah, wow.
PBS? Just going for it. So yeah, you can take very flat looking things and very quickly in After Effects start to give them a lot of mood and atmosphere. And if I were doing this for real, I would do a lot of the same kind of tricks with these columns that I would do with any of the other artwork where you could add, a negative infill and things like that. So one way I could do that is, let's see, can we do this all within the effect? Let's fill it with black. And then let's add some fast box blur and then turn that up a little bit like this. So it's blurred the column out. And then let's use, what is it called? Is it utility? No, CC composite. CC composite, and let's put it behind and uncheck the RGB only. There we go. So what that does is it fills it black and then blurs it, and then if you put CC composite behind, it puts the original artwork behind like that. And if I wanted to, let's see, if I turn down the opacity, of that fill, I can do this. And now the column's got a little bit of a rounded edge. And instead of a fast box blur, I should have done my radial blur trick. Let's put that above the CC composite. Let's turn it to zoom mode, put it over here. Screen space Y is like that. Let's turn up the amount. I'm not getting what I want. Seth, I don't like when I don't get what I want.
Oh, welcome to me almost every week on VFX and Chill. Yeah, it's
all right. Let's just use a fast box blur.
We
and
tend to get
transform.
effects that look really cool on this show at about 1:15, and then we just spend the next 45 minutes ruining them sometimes.
I had so much more to teach you all. All right, so
I guess we'll just have to do this again in the new year.
what?
This is
We're
a heck
coming
of
back? Have we been renewed
heck of
for
a
another season?
Heck of a teaser for the new season there, Hashi. Gosh, I have so much to teach you. Wish I had more time.
Bum, bum, bum. Oh my gosh.
100%.
I mean, I really wanted
How
to
lousy
see
would
you
that
do fire. Like, I wanted the fire and the water stuff. Like, that was what I really wanted. I think we need a whole episode on fire
Okay.
and water.
Oh, 100%.
All right. So
Actually,
because
we could
I
probably just do
really
a whole episode on
wanted to-
fire.
I wanted to get to fire, water, and organic effects. Let's do in the new year, Seth, part 2 of our animated series where we just do that from scratch.
Oh, I love it.
We could do
Good.
a whole series of like fire, water.
Wind even.
That's good. What is your theme there? What?
James Cameron.
Oh. Sound of 1996.
Yes, they are. They are.
That I knew. It sounded.
OSMF.
Yes, we are.
SCPX. That we were getting a second seat.
Ooh, excellent question. It's like he works for us. So what you do here is there's a little effect called RG Shadow, and it comes with Red Giant VFX Suite or Red Giant Complete, or whatever the hell we call it now. And that's some terrible marketer. Sorry, Michael. It comes with Red Giant Complete, correct? That's the only way to get it now.
No, you can still buy a perpetual license of VFX Suite, but the perpetual license is 1.5, so you don't get Bang or anything new. You just get the old, but you do still get Shadow, which can do this. So if you're like a person who's like, I hate subscriptions for no reason, or
I
for
hate
good
subscriptions
reasons.
because the internet tells me I should.
Yeah,
I like spending
no,
lots
if you
of
hate
money all at
subscriptions,
once.
You can still get a perpetual license for lots of money instead of a subscription for very little money. Anyway, yeah, you can still get VFX 1.5, which has Shadow in it.
Anyway,
But
Shadow.
it's not metal accelerated, or it will not work on your M1 chip either, whereas the new one will.
I'm excited because I got an M1 coming. So I line up these ground planes here, these thingy doodads, and then I can position my shadow. Let me turn up the darkness of this shadow so you can really tell that it's there. In fact, let me go back and do this on the dinosaur. That might be a little more, because this is a thin mummy. As you know, thin mummies can be thin. Shadow.
Nice. I'm going to call it on this one over here. And when we come back, I have ignored a huge part of what I wanted to talk about, which is texturing, which is adding more than just the cartoon shading to these things. Because these cartoon shadings, they're going a long way. I really love what's happening. I love the way this mummy gets to look here and all that. But there is a whole new level you can reach by being able to overlay textures on top of your animation. And next episode, I don't know what date that will be. Probably
what January? What is it, Michael? January
14th or something.
7th or something, or I guess maybe 14th.
We'll
14th
see.
is my birthday.
What?
Hey!
Hey, happy birthday. So I'll get to that.
Wait.
But
sorry, Hashi just said happy birthday. Hashi's birthday is before that, if I'm not mistaken. So we actually do owe him a happy birthday as well. And for you, I got snow. Yay! Happy birthday! It's snowing.
Anyway,
floating discombobulated hands next to my head. I'm like a. What character is like that? It says a floating.
On our calendar, it says our first episode back is the 7th.
Okay.
Beautiful. We'll see you all on the 7th of
We still
January.
got 9 minutes.
No. I'm not saying goodbye. I'm just saying that we will see you then. So mark it now. Ignore schools, appointments, everything. But I did promise one thing on social that I was going to show people. So I should probably pull that business
Probably
up.
should.
And
Definitely
earlier,
should.
when we were looking at this, this image here, we went into Illustrator and we grabbed little bits, and then in Photoshop we rescaled them and kind of jiggered them so we could have layers of depth. Now, assuming you had just a flat image, one of the ways you could do that would be going through and, you'd kind of, assuming like if this were flat, you could go through and use like the selection brush and grab pieces and cut them out, duplicate them out, have different things like this. And then you'd then have to go back in and grab your background. You could use that trick I was telling you earlier with a smudge brush of just real quick, just erase the column like this, something, I don't know. There we go. Flawless, I think. And then you'd have a couple layers. You'd have your column and you'd have a clean background, and that's neat and stuff. But the other day I was thinking that there could be some fun to be had utilizing some of Photoshop's new features. So let me open up some fun artwork. I don't remember what this is. This is from something. So we got this beautiful concept painting of this desert scene. And it's a painting. It's not a photo, in case it fooled you. But one thing I realized that Photoshop has is under filters, they have neural filters. And we started to kind of touch on this in our episode with Penny Niederlander. And look at this. One of them down here, I can turn it on. It's called the depth blur. Now, what's crazy is the way this is supposed to work is you click on what you want to be a focal point, and then you turn up this blur level. And look at what that did.
Yeah.
It did this artificial blur. So say I wanted this tower to be in focus. I could click on the tower, and now that's in focus. It threw her out of focus, and the background is even more out of focus. Now, how is it doing that? It's using a neural filter where it has to estimate the depth of everything based on what a trained AI does. Now, one beautiful thing that I did not know last week is that you don't have to use a focal point and all this stuff. Right here, there's a lovely checkbox that says output depth map only. And look at this. So I'm going to check that box and I'm going to say okay. And look at this beautiful thing that we get. And if you remember from last week, you can use a displacement layer, or you can use a depth mat as a great way to displace your image. And let me save these two out. Let's save a copy of this as depth. Boom. And then jump into After Effects. Let's import those two images.
While you import, real quick, Jason just wanted to finish out in our giant shadow at the bottom. There's a displacement section. You just select your plate as your displacement map, and it uses the luminance to then displace your shadow according to the luminance of the plate, and that's how you can displace your shadow in the scene. The end. Bye.
Insanity. All right. So once you have this depth, you can, just like we did the other episode, drag it in here. It can be invisible. Doesn't matter anymore. You go to your artwork and then you say displacement map. And now if you go in, and this is a little bit small, but you just go to displacement map layer and select depth right there. And I always switch this to luminance just because I like that. And now I can use the displacement values back and forth to do this.
Look at that. Look at that. Oh, that's like the head bop thing we did with her last week. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And if
ago.
you use the effects and masks, you could do stuff like on the depth layer itself. You could do a fast box blur. And if that's turned up, it'll kind of smooth the displacement a little bit, as it were. So let me reset the values of this. And now you can see it's made everything a little bit rounder and stretchier. I mean, there's a point that it breaks, of course, but this part right here is pretty cool. But that's only like left, right, up, and down kind of displacement. And I had the thought that if you're provided with this lovely depth mat...
Dude, this is so cool. I saw this on Twitter and I want to murder you for it.
Yes. What if you were to like take selections of the different like shades you're getting, but use those selections to grab pieces of the original? And then I thought that seems really repetitive and annoying. And so what would actually be easier is let me just close this whole file down again and just reopen the JPEG. It's got a JPEG, flat JPEG of this thing. But I have made a couple of actions which are my Christmas present to you all, or just a holiday present. If you, it's this set. It has 2 stages right here. The first is 2 minutes, 2 stages. Boom. Let's run this one, the depth mat creation, where you just run that. And it applies that neural filter, thinks about it for a second, and creates a new layer. And it's automatically renamed these 2 things, the painting and depth. You don't have to do it with a painting, but I just love that it does work for those. Now, while you're at this stage, one thing you can do is you can kind of just gauge whether or not its guess was good at the depth. And one of the things you'll maybe find is that there are some really fine details that neural filter is not really quite getting, but that's okay. So once this is done, I've created this second thing called multiplane. And multiplane it's really just the same like 8 steps over and over again, where I'm using a color range to select all the values between 0 and 32, and then 32 and 64, blah, 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 through the image. And then after it's selected that, it grabs that selection from the painting, runs content-aware fill on it, and, well, let's just play it. Let's, right here, press play. Oh, Seth, you got to come over here. Check this out. Look up. So over here, right next to Michael, all these layers are being created as you run this. I don't got to do nothing. I can just press that button and say OK, and these layers get generated in the background. And once it's done, which I think it's close to done, I can't remember if it's 9 or 10 layers it creates. You could technically do infinite divisions of this, up to the number of luminance values, I guess. So it looks like nothing's happened, and everything is back. But check this out. Layer 1 is this foreground layer and the character and that little dune. Layer 2 is sort of the front half of that thing, and so on and so forth. Each one has gone in and run content-aware fill on its previous self. And there are some sloppy errors. I could have made the content-aware fill thing bigger. I'll make it a little bit better before I send it out to you all. But check this out. Let's save this as a Photoshop file. Desert thing. And then if I bring this into After Effects, oh my gosh, we're past time, but I love you all. And
it's a Christmas.
Happy holidays for hanging out. It is. Let's bring in the composition. Let's open it up. And I'm going to do something silly, which is just grab all of these. I'll parent them to the painting, and I'll, because I just want this to be an HD comp. Let's make this 20 by 10, 80-ish. And then since they're all parented to this one, let's scale them down so they fit the width there. And then I'll unparent everything again. That part's kind of unnecessary. I just want to for preview purposes. Let's turn on all of our layers. And so we have this beautiful scene back. I'll select all of my layers, and then I am going to cheat here. I'm going to use PT Multiplane. And what PT Multiplane does is it takes all of your selected layers, and you can say auto arrange these on the Z-axis from 0 to a point that you want. And I will just say apply multiplane. I've also elected to create a 2-node camera because I like the 2-node cameras. So it looks like nothing has happened, but
but something's happened.
Let's F11 switch to the side. Look at this. It has auto-arranged all of these layers.
Why, God, why?
Out in Z. And the wonderful thing about this is on top of that, they each have a controller null on them. So as I push things away from camera, the controller null is scaling up the layer. So if I went to a view like this in PT Multiplane, I could kind of decide, well, there shouldn't be, this stuff should all actually be kind of close to each other. So let's just grab the nulls and sort of move like the lady and the side of that little temple thing there and move it a little bit closer, because these should be kind of closer, not so separated in Z depth. Maybe something like this, just by their nulls or whatever. And then just find the point where this little thing is no longer there. And then if I switch back to my front view, nothing will look like it's changed. But look at this. If I add some keyframes to the camera, I can now start
you're a real piece of crap.
Pushing
you
through
son of a...
or away from this artwork.
God.
Oh, I forget that After Effects now, I don't like this dolly toward cursor thing. I want to dolly toward the point of interest. So look at this. I'm now flying through this piece of artwork in 3D. Zoom, zoom, zoom. I can orbit around to some degree. And all of that I got pretty much for free.
People asking, how can we get the Photoshop actions you made? Well, guess the hell what?
Guess what? I am going to upload them, I wanted to share them in the chat. But what we're going to do is I'm going to save them as a zip, give them to the powers that be, so it can be in the description for this. The powers that be are Michael. Yes, a PT Multiplane is a script that you have to buy. You can build your own version of it, because if you move an object away from the screen, and I think Stu Mashwitz is in the chat.
Yeah, he died. You killed him.
Yeah, he said insane.
Yeah, you killed him. His blood is on your hands now.
So I believe if you add an expression, I will get this wrong if I tried, but if you add an expression to the scale of an object, and you add in the distance between the camera and your object, and you multiply its scale by the...
Well, see, the problem is it depends on the focal length of your camera.
Yeah, it's the focal length over the...
Just get the script, it's easier.
Just get the script.
And get the PT Search and Replace bundle, also very handy. Oh, hey, yes. Amy Yamoto's in the chat. Hi.
Yeah.
Amy Yamato, come be on the show.
Please come be on the show.
Shy for live stream stuff, but we'll figure it out.
If we can do these amazing visual effects live, we can have you on the show.
Absolutely. So please find Seth and me on the Twitters. We will probably share these actions in the next however many minutes it takes me to.
We will. Red Giant in the Nude on Twitter, and that's where you'll find us. Guys, Michael, this is the end of 2021. This is the end of season 1 of VFX and Chill. And seriously, thank you all for tuning in each week. This is our favorite thing that we do at our job, in our life. Don't tell our kids or our wives or our husbands. This is absolutely has been such a blessing and treat to be on the show and hang out with you guys each week. Please join us for season 2 on the date that Michael said earlier, and we'll say again. And we will see. We were gonna now throw. What are we gonna do? Are we singing? Are we singing our way out of this? Oh man! Hey, look at these credits. La 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 do da ba 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 do ba do ba ba boo ba chip bow but this is a song I'm singing things and Christmas and stuff and thanks.